And we are back.
Hello again. It's us, the horror guys.
I'm Brian.
I'm Kevin.
And we are up to episode 145.
I bet we're going to talk about some horror movies today, aren't we?
We are. I bet we're going to have 4 regular horror movies and 1 short.
And a short.
How unusual.
No, not really so much.
What do we got this time?
Well, we got an old one, The Werewolf from 1956. And
Not like anything special, just The Werewolf.
And I bet most of our listeners have not seen this for some reason.
I'd never seen it.
I'd never seen it. I'd never heard of it. And yet, it was there.
Yeah,
so
it was.
We watched it, and we'll talk about it. Also got something not quite so old, the First Children of the Corn movie from 1984.
Ooh, creepy kids in the corn.
And a year later, Howling II, Your Sister is a Werewolf.
Your sister's a what?
Werewolf.
Werewolf, okay.
And just this year is a new one, Dead and Beautiful.
Ah, okay.
An
Sounds
international
cool.
kind of film.
All right, before we get going, got a couple of announcements. Don't forget, we do have a brand new email newsletter, which includes bonus reviews every week. You get all 5 of our regular reviews from the podcast and Saturday's newsletter. And then there's a separate newsletter with the bonus. Well, it's all one subscription. But the second newsletter usually has 2 or maybe more extra reviews. Recent bonus reviews include Begotten, a silent film made way back in 1991.
Holy cow.
Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell, the very last Hammer horror film with Peter Cushing as
I
Frankenstein.
remember seeing that at the drive-in theater way back in the day.
Oh,
It
okay.
was probably when it came out. Yeah.
Wolf, Jack Nicholson, 1994. And Wolf Cop, a silly comedy from 2014. I Was a Teenage Werewolf from 1957, which was surprisingly good.
Michael Landon, right?
Yeah. And The Blood of Dracula, also from 1957. Surprisingly, not that good.
Surprisingly kind of meh.
Okay, and of course, check out our books, horrorguys.com/books, where you can find our newest book, The Horror Guy's Guide to the Horror Films of Vincent Price. Ooh. All right, are we ready?
We're ready.
All right, well, let's go. First up, we've got The Werewolf
Ow!
from 56. We just talked about I Was a Teenage Werewolf from 56.
This
From
guy
57.
is,
This came a little first.
I Was an Adult Werewolf.
He was, yes.
That's the subtitle, yeah. And at no point does he howl at the moon.
No, he does not.
No.
There is no moon. There's some very interesting things about this one that's a little bit different. He's
Yep.
not your typical gypsy curse kind of werewolf.
It's more of a glandular thing. More of a Hulk kind of situation.
Yeah, very much. Directed by Fred Sears, written by Robert Kent and James Gordon, stars Don McGowan, Joyce Holden, Eleanor Tannen, 1 hour and 19 minutes, and we've got a link in the show notes to watch the entire thing. Okay, and for spoiler-free Judgment Zone. It's a not-so-well-known film and deserves to be more well-known. It's well done, a little long maybe, but it looks great and is well acted. Overall, it's good, but maybe just a little slow.
And I'd never heard of it before.
No,
Well, you hadn't
little
either.
known.
Yeah. Very strange. There's no big names in it.
I think that's
maybe
probably why.
Yeah, no huge names involved with it, but yeah, it was really good.
Well, The Wolfman, Lon Chaney, came out in 1941, so this is 15 years later.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, it's not like they were just trying to copy anything. This is just, a different version of the same thing.
Yeah, horror and sci-fi. And I saw where when it was first released, it was double billed with Earth versus the Flying Saucers.
Another classic. We got to do that one someday. Well, a man walks down the street at night as the voiceover explains about lycanthropy. The man then goes into Ched's place, and the credits roll. The man has a quick drink and stares into the fire. We see another man purposely ignoring the first man. He tells the bartender that he's just passing through and leaves. The other man follows him outside. The first man says he doesn't remember who he is, but the second man wants all his money. The 2 men fight in the alley, and an old woman watches. She sees the winner's face and screams.
Yeah, she reacts poorly to that.
She tells the deputy what happened. Only an animal could do that to a man's throat. Some of the men grab shotguns and follow the footprints into the snow. Somewhere along the trail, the shoe prints turn into wolf tracks. Later, the sheriff comes back and the deputy has been injured. They go to see Dr. Gilchrist and his daughter Amy. Sheriff Haynes says the thing that killed the man and hurt the deputy was both animal and man. Haynes and Dr. Gilchrist argue about werewolves being real, but they're both well aware of the legends. And this is something I thought was kind of interesting. Usually these old movies, it's like, oh, monsters aren't real. And oh, what's a vampire? What's a werewolf?
What? Werewolf? Never heard of that.
They knew all about werewolves here.
Well, all the people in this were smart and competent.
Maybe a little too
good at their
smart.
jobs.
I mean, if werewolves were real, would you expect just everybody to believe that?
Well, the evidence is there, and
okay.
the eyewitnesses, and it's overwhelming, and they're not just ignoring. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it when they spend half the movie trying to convince people that the thing is real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a waste of time.
Well, the unnamed...
This gets right to it.
Yeah, the unnamed amnesiac man wakes up, still wearing a suit, but his shoes are gone. He, too, notices the change in his footprints. He goes to the doctor as well, but runs into Amy by accident. The doctor tries to narrow down what the man remembers.
Not much.
He says he was in a traffic accident and went to see 2 doctors and then, nothing. He then admits he killed that man last night, but he thought it was a bad dream. When they mention calling the sheriff, the man runs off. The doctor and Amy tell Sheriff Haynes that the man is sick, not a criminal, and to try not to shoot him. Also a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, with Frankenstein, the first thing they'd have to do is, kill that thing.
Kill it with fire.
Meanwhile, Morgan, the mad scientist, is experimenting on dogs. His assistant, Dr. Emery, asks, "What have you done?"
And you quickly figure out these were the 2 doctors that he was talking about that he barely remembered.
Yeah, something was done to him.
Yeah.
Morgan says that
These guys are jerks.
Mankind will soon be mutating from nuclear radiation, and the werewolf is the cure to save mankind. Now, how they came up with that, I don't know.
Well, supercharging humans so they have more ability to survive in the wild.
Okay.
Without the trappings of humanity.
They're not quite human, though, if they're a werewolf.
That kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
When the rest of the world is destroyed, we'll be the only thinking persons left, he says. He then pokes a dog with a sharp stick, just because we can see he's a bad guy. Morgan wants to hunt down the werewolf and kill him before he blabs and gives away their work. The werewolf's wife and son come asking about him, but Morgan says he ran off yesterday. Morgan and Emery go to town and say they treated the missing man. Emery finds the man hiding in a cave. Emery says there's nothing they can do for him. The man turns into a werewolf right then and attacks Emery. Morgan takes a shot and drives it off. The 2 doctors explain themselves to Haynes.
Well, not entirely.
Not entirely truthful, no.
No.
The sheriff starts putting down bear traps. They find out that the werewolf's name is Duncan Marsh, and his wife and son are on the way to town. The werewolf does step into a bear trap, but is smart enough to let himself out.
And strong enough.
Yeah. Helen Marsh arrives in town, and she soon hears the whole story. Sheriff Haynes, Deputy Clovey, Amy, and the werewolf's wife and son go up to the mountain and search. They plead through a bullhorn, and Marsh staggers through the woods toward them. The family reunites, and Amy treats Duncan's leg. They take him to jail for protection, but Morgan and Emery are still waiting to kill him because he knows too much. The doctor suggests to Haynes that someone did this to Marsh. Doc talks about how science and medicine are always turning down new roads. Who would have done this to Marsh? What kind of man would do this? Morgan and Emery overpower the deputy and enter the jail building. They find Marsh sleeping in his cell, and they go into the cell, and the werewolf then kills them both.
Yeah, they get theirs.
Yeah, it's not full moon or any of that stuff. He just sort of turns
when he gets upset,
randomly, or when he's upset
and angry. Yeah, I don't think it's too random, but yeah, when he's wanting to defend himself.
Yeah. The townsfolk light up their torches and chase the werewolf back up the mountain. You knew there was torches coming sooner or later. They shoot at the werewolf and then go home until morning for some reason. Okay, we shot at him. Let's not go after him anymore.
No, it's enough for tonight. We're getting hungry.
The next morning, the men continue to chase the werewolf. They trap him in the middle of a bridge and shoot him several times. The werewolf turns back into Marsh and dies. The end.
I wanted a happy ending.
Almost.
It was a tragic ending.
There's no full moon, there's no silver bullets, and no magic or curse. This werewolf is 100% scientifically created by mad scientists. The makeup is pretty good, and the transformation was also well done. The werewolf wears a suit throughout, so the werewolf makeup is just his head and hands. He may be going for the Best Dressed Werewolf
Best
award.
dressed werewolf ever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Toward the end, they call him the Wolfman a few times, which was also interesting. And I do like that the first conclusion the sheriff comes to is, it must be a werewolf. Usually they doubt and deny it for half the film before all the doubt is erased. This sheriff isn't out to kill the thing, but to help the poor man who is a victim himself. The film is not terribly scary. It's more of a missing man kind of drama, but it looks good, is well acted, and paced well. I'm surprised a movie this decent isn't more well known, but it's probably due to the lack of a big-name actor.
Yep, probably. Yeah.
Is this one available, where was it, Tubi?
Yeah, it was Tubi.
I think
We
this one
watched it.
streams on Tubi. And
If you don't mind commercials, it's
Yeah.
worth a while. Tubi's got a lot of good stuff,
Yeah,
actually.
we've been looking at Tubi closely. They got lots of these older movies on there.
They do, yeah.
And they are free, but you got to watch commercials.
It's worth it.
It's not
For
excessive.
some movies, it's worth it.
Some of their commercials are pretty ridiculous, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so next up we go from that old movie to a new movie,
New.
Dead and Beautiful from 2021.
When you're super rich and super bored, what happens?
Yeah. Directed by David Verbeek, written by David Verbeek and Hugh Travers, stars Gij Blom, Philip Wan, and Anna Marchenko. Runtime hour 38 minutes, and there's a YouTube trailer in the show notes. And the spoiler-free Judgment Zone says, 5 ultra-rich friends learns what happens when you become a vampire. It looks really good and has a fun premise that kind of goes nowhere. I didn't hate it, but I probably wouldn't choose to watch it again.
I don't think I would. I didn't love it. I don't regret watching it, but it wasn't,
I thought it was entertaining, but I don't like where it went in the last 20 minutes or so.
No, I didn't either.
Well, where did we see this, was it? This is Shudder?
This was Shudder.
Shudder, yeah.
Yes.
A couple of girls are driving through the city in an expensive sports car and almost hit an old woman who points a finger and mutters gibberish at them.
And this takes place in some generic city in China. We don't actually get a location, but it's in China, and it's a mix of international. There are Chinese.
It's not
at
a
least
Chinese
two, at least
film,
two of
yeah.
them are Chinese, aren't they? And one guy, they're different in nationalities.
The girl is Chinese. The other guy is some, I don't know, Asian. He might be Korean or something.
And they all speak Chinese, so
Yeah.
there's a mix. There is some subtitles.
Takes place
But
in
a lot
a
of it's
neon
in
city
English,
in
too.
China.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And most of it is in English.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They switched to Chinese a few times.
Right.
Yeah.
So a couple of guys are waiting for them at the airport bar. They're waiting for the arrival of a fifth friend, Ben Ray, who has died. Mason, Anastasia, Alexander, and Lulu sit around his memorial cake and talk about the dead guy until Ben Ray pops out of the cake.
Surprise! I'm not really dead.
It was all just a joke. Yeah, these guys tend to play very expensive pranks on each other.
Elaborate, expensive pranks.
Yeah, this guy had a whole funeral and everything. So Anna says the guys are bored, and that's why they keep picking stupid things to do on their turns. Lulu says it's her turn next week. What does she want to do? The 5 friends are all excessively wealthy, each worth umpteen billions apiece. They start a fight in a club because, why not? Lulu goes home to find her mother passed out drunk on the floor. So, she's a billionaire, but she's got
There's
a rough
still
life.
problems. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks to be a billionaire, you know?
Poor little rich girl.
On Anna's turn, they all go to a hike through the jungle, but she won't say where they're going. They all camp out that night, but a strange-looking little man comes out of the woods to their campfire. The man cuts his hand and drips blood into a cup. He then burns the blood and they each inhale the smoke. Then they all pass out. Well, that's a different way of doing it.
You.
When they wake up, they find the old man is dead. They all pack up their stuff and start to head home, and they quickly notice that, hey, we've all got fangs. They then call for a helicopter to come pick them up from the jungle. The copter takes them to a high-rise that's still under construction. The sun starts to rise, and they all hurry inside.
Just in case.
One of the guys points at the sun, coming up and says, that's bad, right?
That's bad, isn't it? Well, are we vampires? Well, maybe
Let's
get
go
inside just in case.
They doubt the sun's going to hurt them, but why take chances? Anna swears she found the whole trip on Instagram. Binray does research about an ancient tribe of vampires that used to live on that very same land, and their shaman refused to leave. The shaman wanted to create a new tribe and gave him their blood. How can they find out if they're really vampires? The girls hire a gigolo. Well, okay, I guess that's one way to do it if you're rich. He lets them take his blood, and all four of them drink it. Mason abstains to see what will happen. Afterwards, they're all very energized. They don't burn up in the sunlight, and Lulu dares Mason to bite her, but again he refuses.
And so
Mason's kind of a stick in the mud.
Yeah. But it makes you wonder: are they or aren't they?
Well, they felt really energized after drinking the blood, but the sunlight does not kill them.
Yeah, so there's
they're a little bit different vampires for sure.
Yeah.
So Alex then kidnaps a woman off the street and ties her up. Lulu tells him to release her, but he refuses. Anna finds the woman later. Alex practices looking scary in front of a mirror. Yes, they can see themselves in a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And Binray then explains how he mind-controlled a lady at the 7-Eleven. Wow. All right, and I'm going to stop reading the synopsis there because it's a new movie, and I think most people probably haven't seen it.
And they need to watch it for themselves to see how it ends.
If you want to read the whole spoiler-filled thing, go to horrorguys.com and search for it. It's easy to find. All right, well, the scenery, settings, and overall cinematography are really cool. This is a nice-looking movie. The audio is kind of bad in places, and some of the characters are a little hard to understand, even ignoring the foreign accents. But then again, if these people really believed they were vampires, I suspected they really wouldn't all be behaving this way. I mean, I think they had a lot of doubt that this was all real.
I think they did, yeah.
And I suspected exactly what the ending was far too early on. This is what happens when you have too much time and too much money. It just went on for too long, and I'm not going to go any further there with my commentary.
Yeah, don't go any further. Yeah, let the nice people see for themselves.
Yeah. It's worth checking out. It's a good-looking movie. It's got some neat scenery. But I did not care for the resolution.
It was all right.
It's all right.
Yeah. It's all right. Yeah.
All right. And that takes us to something else. And, of course, as usual, we watch a short film this week. What did we watch?
Raw chicken.
Well, yeah, there is a lot of that. It's called The Barn from 2021. Written and directed by Damon Nash White. Stars Justice Tirapelli Jamel and Rocio de la Grana. I bet I mangled those both. But it runs 18 minutes, and you can see a trailer in the show notes. So the simple synopsis is, after the disappearance of his sister, a man experiences increasingly disturbing dreams of raw chicken. Wow.
And carrots. Cutting carrots, too.
Cutting carrots. Yeah, that cutting carrot scene was something, wasn't it? Made me hungry.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a huge number of short films don't have any dialogue, presumably to make the film more marketable worldwide.
And this is one of them.
There's nothing too innovative or unusual about a film with no dialogue. This one, however, really puts in the effort on the visuals. It's bright, colorful, and artsy without overdoing it. The music is well done as well, showing us without telling us that something isn't quite right in this household.
Yeah, the whole thing manages to be creepy and unsettling, just showing ordinary things.
Yeah?
There were several moments I was thinking, this is just an ordinary thing they're showing, and yet
like
it's creepy.
Carrots.
Yeah, unsettling. Yeah,
it was very well done. Maybe a little longer than it needed to be, but it really looks great. And I will go full disclosure here. I find actual raw chicken 100 times scarier and more disgusting than any amount of gore in any horror movie I've ever seen. There is no way in any way you are going to catch me cooking raw chicken. All right. Well, you know who probably doesn't mind raw chicken? Children of the Corn.
Children of the Corn?
Chicken and corn go together like, corn and chicken. All right, 1984's Children of the Corn, directed by Fritz Kirsch, written by Stephen King and George Goldsmith.
Based on his short story.
Yep. Stars Peter Horton, Linda Hamilton, and R.G. Armstrong. Hour and 32 minutes. And we got a trailer in the show notes, as always. Spoiler free. This was a lot slower getting going than I remember. I saw it when it came out.
Yeah, so did I, and I remembered there being more action, more stuff.
It's a little on the boring side.
A little bit. I was surprised.
If you're creeped out by religious fanatics or little kids in general, watch out. If you're creeped out by both, then you need to see this one.
And it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as I remember.
It got good toward the end, but it was a long way getting there.
Yeah.
All right. You want to read this one?
Sure. I'll read your notes on this one.
Children
He's passing me the computer. It's Gatlin, Nebraska, 3 years ago. Oh, wait, I've skipped. You did the director and all that. Yeah. Okay, I'm reading the synopsis. I'll try to keep up. Okay, 3 years ago, there was a corn drought. A boy and his father go for ice cream after church, see a bunch of creepy kids hanging around. One of them locks the door as the very young waitress poisons everyone's coffee. The ones who don't drink the coffee get their throats cut, or worse. And it happened all over town that day.
Wiped out all the adults in town.
Credits roll. And in the present day, Bert and Vicky wake up. It's his birthday. He's just graduated from medical school. She wants to get married, but he's putting her off. Meanwhile, back in the cornland, Joseph is going to run away. But Job and Sarah whine about it first. They're little ones, and he's like, a big sibling. They don't want him to leave.
Here's the thing, though. The kid's name is J-O-B.
Yeah.
Biblical name Job.
Uh-huh.
Except throughout the entire film, they call him Job.
They do? I didn't catch that.
Just like getting a job at the store or whatever.
I didn't catch that.
Which is kind of weird. I've never seen anybody named that called Job. It's always Job.
Yeah. Huh. Well, he starts running through the cornfield. Someone with a knife has other ideas. Vicky and Bert drive to Nebraska and laugh at the religious shows on the radio until they run over Joseph, who is standing in the middle of the road. And Bert thinks right away that something fishy is going on. He walks through the corn and finds Joseph's suitcase and blood. They put the body in the trunk and drive on. Bert notices that Joseph's throat had already been cut before they hit him. I mean, he was walking dead already, just staggered onto the road, basically. Job and Sarah are little kids, and they don't like Isaac and Malachi very much. Malachi, the main enforcer, catches them having fun.
No.
Oh, dressing up and listening to records and playing Monopoly.
Toys?
Sins.
You don't need toys.
Sins. Isaac, the religious leader, forgives them of their crimes. He is benevolent. Well, Bert stops at the gas station, and Old Man Deal comes out and warns them to not go to Gatlin. Deal's dog barks at the corn. He yells at the corn, "I kept our bargain. I didn't tell them nothing." He then finds the dog's bloody scarf in the engine he's working on. He goes into the barn, and they get him too. Bert tries to avoid Gatlin, but the road won't let him. Before long, they find themselves driving through a cornfield. They crawl through the corn and find Isaac giving a sermon to the children of Gatlin. He who walks behind the rows said outsiders would come, and the man would sorely test them.
And the first time I saw this film, the whole time through, I thought it was
he who walks behind the rows.
Rose, like a flower in his hand.
Yeah.
No, it's rose, R-O-W-S, like rows of corn.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was halfway through the movie the first time before I realized, oh, yeah.
Not that kind of rose.
Well, Vicky and Bert get to town, and it's deserted. They go into the cafe from the pre-credit sequence, and there's corn spread everywhere. They find Sarah, who tells them that Isaac put the adults in the cornfield. Sarah has been forbidden from drawing because she has the sight of things she's not supposed to draw. She can tell the future. And
She
she draws the future.
She has a shining.
Yes, yeah. Bert goes to explore the town hall while evil teenagers surround the house where Vicky is hiding. Vicky is soon captured by Malachi and his goons. Bert returns. Sarah tells him about Malachi. He goes outside, and the corn parts, showing him where to go. Isaac and the others tie Vicky to a big cross as all the kids chant, kill, 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 over and over.
Nice.
Yeah. They're pretty much on board, following this psycho little kid.
Well, it's basically a cult.
Mm-hmm. And, initially you think that's maybe all it is.
Well, Isaac talks like a Southern preacher, and he's using the religious stuff, and it seems very much cult-like, except later on we find out that maybe there's more to it than that.
Yep, you do. Bert goes to the church, finds a bunch of kids drinking blood. When the kids reach 19, they go to He Who Walks Behind the Rose. Now, he runs, but all the kids pursue him all over town. Job finds him and takes him into a hiding place where he and Sarah hide. It's an old bomb shelter. They take him up into the barn then, where they can look down on the whole cornfield. Well, Malachi argues with Isaac and takes over. They cut down Vicky, hoping to use her as bait to catch Bert, and they tie up Isaac in his place. Amos, who turned 19 today, walks into the field, and He Who Walks Behind the Rose comes for him. It also kills Isaac. And that's where you realize, it's a real thing.
A monster out there.
Yeah. Bert grabs Vicky in the chaos and accuses the whole group of being in a cult. Then Isaac comes back, looking pretty seriously undead. He comes for Malachi and kills him. That was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
He wants you too, Malachi. And, strangles him with his bare hands. As the others, Bert included, run away, a storm comes up, and many people hide in the barn. Job gives Bert a Bible verse that's supposed to make the monster go away. Vicky figures out that they need to burn the cornfield. It's a verse alluding to fire, and they recently had started making gasohol. So there you go.
Plus, in one of the pictures that the little girl drew, there's a big tank of gasohol shown.
Yeah, they put it together. Well, they hook up a fire hose to the gasohol tank, and Bert goes outside. The corn itself attacks Bert, wrapping him up. He cuts himself loose with Job's help. They hook up the gasohol to the irrigation system to spray it all over the corn and soak the whole field. As He Who Walks Behind the Rose approaches, they burn the field and the monster. And Bert, Vicky, Job, and Sarah start walking for the nearby town of Hemmingford, 19 miles away. So, happy ending for the four of them.
We'll never see any more Children of the Corn films. That wrapped it all up
that
just
took
nicely.
care of the beast and Isaac, and they're all gone.
What are they up to, 9 sequels now or something?
And a reboot, too.
Yeah. Isaac is played by a 26-year-old littleish person. He's not a little person, he's just really short.
He's right on the edge of
who is way creepier looking than he should be. The actor who plays Malachi has been in a bunch of things, including The Burbs, one of my favorite 80s comedies. Remember The Burbs?
I do, yeah.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, funny stuff.
Okay, Linda Hamilton was not a big name yet. Terminator was released the same year as this, a little later on. So I bet they won't be able to afford her for the sequel.
No.
It's a not too subtle metaphor for just about any culty type religion, especially Deep South Christianity, which often doesn't look much different than this, only with actual adults. It's really slow getting started, but once the action finally starts, it's pretty good. The monster burns at the end, but it's some kind of supernatural force. Isaac didn't stay dead either. Could there be a sequel in the works? How about 9 or so of them?
Oh, yeah.
Actually, this film has more sequels than any other Stephen King adaptation.
And I've heard he's not too proud of all of them.
No, I don't imagine he would be. Speaking of something not to be proud of, we loved The Howling when we reviewed it a few months back.
That was pretty darn good.
Yes, it was. Probably maybe one of the best werewolf movies.
And then they made a sequel.
Howling II, Your Sister is a Werewolf, from 1985. Directed by Philippe Mora, written by Gary Brandner and Robert Sarno, stars Christopher Lee,
much to his chagrin.
Annie McEnroe and Reb Brown, hour and 31 minutes, trailer in the usual place.
And Sybil Danning. You didn't mention Sybil Danning.
She's not in the top 3, I guess. But
she should be.
She should be,
It's all about her. She's queen of the werewolves.
Spoiler-free judgment zone. Christopher Lee expressed some shame about being part of this one, which gives you some idea of the quality. It's not good.
Well, but in a way, it's so bad it's good.
There are some entertaining moments.
Still entertaining.
But they're pretty fleeting. The acting, editing, special effects, story, they all just individually lack quality. If you want to see what happened immediately following the first Howling, then check it out. Otherwise, I don't think either of us recommend it.
Oh, I think for a sense of completion, you really should see it.
Oh, you're going to regret it as much as Christopher Lee did. Well, this time, we're in Los Angeles at the funeral for Karen White. The news editor tells Jenny, the reporter, to cover the story about 6 dead bodies that were found half-eaten. Stefan, an occult investigator, gives Ben a business card. Jenny asks him about Karen, and he says that Karen was, and still is, a werewolf. Jenny tells Ben, "Your sister is a werewolf." Then we see Karen beating on the lid of her coffin from within.
Uh-oh.
And Karen is the reporter, the Dee Wallace character from the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Recast as a generic, some look-alike at this point.
Who is a full-blown werewolf and not dead because they took the silver out.
Yeah, at the end of the first movie, she was in the newsroom on camera, and she turned into a werewolf, and somebody shot her.
And they briefly show that happening in this as footage. It's a different actress, different makeup.
Yeah.
It's not that footage from the first
movie. You can tell the
movie.
budget is lower. So yeah, they reshot that same scene with a different actress, and it looks cheap. We shift to a nightclub where Stefan is the least hip-looking guy around, but nobody seems to notice. It must be because he was given cool sunglasses to wear. Yeah, it's Christopher Lee in like this button-up, relaxed-looking shirt and these shiny wrap-around-the-head sunglasses from the 70s.
80s.
80s.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more like the 70s. He's a little out of date there. All right. Anyway, he watches a woman lure Moondevil, Deacon, and 2 friends to a warehouse. Yes, that's their names. She then turns into a werewolf and kills them all. Jenny and Ben go to see Stefan. He explains that Ben's sister was shot with a silver bullet, but the bullet was removed at the autopsy, so she will never rest in peace. "There are great numbers of werewolves living among us," Stefan says. He also explains that Karen arranged her own murder. He shows him a videotape of Karen's last news broadcast. And of course, she was the reporter in the first The Howling film. He shows him a photo of Mariana, the woman we saw in the warehouse. Stefan explains that only titanium will kill her kind, not silver.
That's a twist.
Their leader is a woman called Stirba. Stefan says he's going to make sure Karen is really dead, and Ben swears to kill him first. Which seems like kind of a big overreaction.
A bit, yeah.
The 3 all converge on the mausoleum. They hear wolves howling. Ben shoots a werewolf outside, and then shoots his sister inside.
Yeah, they become believers pretty quick.
Very quickly. More of the rubbery-faced monsters attack, and they chase him until one of the beasts tells them where to find Stirba. Stefan says he's off to find Stirba, but now Ben is on his side and wants to go with him. Jenny will tag along too. The dark country is, of course, Transylvania. Mariana also travels to Transylvania, where she's meeting Stirba. The truckload of werewolves stop to pick up a couple of German appetizers on the way. That was kind of a funny thing.
Mm-hmm.
A whole truck full of werewolves, and these 2 German tourists are trying to jog up the hill.
Yeah, bad choice of rides.
We soon see that the werewolves like to dress in bondage gear and chant in candlelight. Once the chanting is done, an old woman sucks the life out of a sacrificial victim and becomes young again. This is Stirba. Her breasts are pert again, and we get to see them and their cleavage a lot throughout the rest of the movie. Good thing she regenerated first.
Yeah.
That scary old woman.
I think we can all appreciate that. Yeah.
Then they all stop and have a werewolf orgy.
Because why not?
Got to have something to sell this thing. Stefan, Jenny, and Ben arrive and almost immediately stake a werewolf. They stake
a werewolf
with a silver stake.
Yeah.
Another werewolf is hiding in their back seat, but they don't notice. They go to the hotel and stay in room 666, but the hotel doesn't have 6 floors. What?
Don't think too deeply about that.
Jenny and Ben have sex in a bad montage with gypsy dancers. Werewolves and people with fangs seem to be literally everywhere in town, even in the daylight. Wherever they go, somebody with teeth is staring at them. The full moon rises, and Ben sneaks up to the werewolf castle. Vasily the dwarf gives Ben blessed earplugs that look like teeth. Nasty looking things.
Yeah, they did. They worked, though.
Sturba reveals that Stefan is her brother, because of course he is. Sturba says some magic words, and when Vasily loses his earplugs, his eyeballs explode. Ooh, they did have a point. Sturba captures Jenny, and Ben and Stefan have to rescue her. Meanwhile, up at the dark castle, the werewolves are having another major orgy, including the same band that was playing back in L.A.
Because why not? Yeah.
Everybody in L.A. suddenly wound up in Transylvania.
Yeah, they did.
I haven't felt like this since I was in the Mekong Delta, Ben says. Because, a werewolf orgy in Vietnam, it's the same thing.
Practically.
Meanwhile, more orgy. They get word that their enemies have arrived, and the orgy ends. There's a battle between 5 well-armed guys in the dark and a dozen men in monkey suits. I told you we'd get these fuzzballs, shouts Ben.
Excuse me, did you say monkey suits?
I said monkey suits.
There's more on that later.
Yeah, there is. Soon there are only 3 guys with guns. Sturba then throws her pet dragon at the priest in what is probably the only cool effect in the movie. Ben rushes in, kills Mariana and Vlad, and rescues Jenny. Stefan continues on to find Sturba. Finally, we meet again, she taunts. For the last time, he answers. Yeah, that's the real dialogue. Her hands glow, and he stabs her, letting all the glowing light out. The light surrounds them both, and they burn to death. All right. Because Stefan had that coming, I guess. He was the good guy.
Well, he had to sacrifice himself to cancel out all that evil. Because they were kind of a yin and yang kind of, one goes, the other goes kind of thing.
Back in L.A., it's Halloween.
But, there won't be any more, after that.
No more Howling movies
Because,
now.
that was the end of them.
Yeah. It's Halloween in L.A., and Ben and Jenny go to answer the door. It's their very first little trick-or-treater. They open the door, and it's a werewolf. Their neighbor is a little Transylvanian priest that they saw on the road outside the castle. They've been followed home.
Whoops.
Oops. Well, this might just get my vote for the objectively worst episode of a franchise horror film ever. It's painfully bad to watch, and not in a fun way.
Oh, I thought it was kind of... I picked up more on the so bad it's good kind of vibe, and I think I enjoyed it more than you did.
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching something like The Return of the Living Dead or something like that was filmed as a comedy, that's fine. I think they were trying to be serious here.
I think they were.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
I don't know what the director and scriptwriter were on, but it was some pretty powerful stuff. Someone somewhere thought this was worth releasing to the public. The monsters are cheap, the special effects shots are heavily borrowed from the first film, and the script and the story are both atrocious. Most of the werewolves were actually literally men in monkey suits. The studio delivered monkey suits by mistake. They were labeled Planet of the Apes. And the director was told, make it work.
And so he did.
Yeah, he did. A number of the scenes had no purpose whatsoever, and nothing connected some of the scenes together. Sybil Danning spends most of the time dressing and posing like a supervillain from an R-rated version of the Power Rangers. Some of those costumes are pretty good, though.
Yes, they are. She is definitely one of the high points of the movie. Her over-the-top portrayal of the Queen of the Werewolves.
There's one scene where she tears off her top.
Oh, yeah.
And flashes her boobs. And in the closing credits, they showed that 17 times.
There's
in the closing credits.
A music, where they, she was not pleased about that, I hear.
It's like every time somebody crashed the cymbals on the drum, she pulled her top off again. And
she had a history of adult movies, and she was wanting this one to not, not to be about her breasts for a change.
Show that she was a serious
And then
actress.
she saw what they did at the end. Rumor has it she was not pleased with that.
Wow. Well, Christopher Lee looks pretty bewildered here, as if he wasn't given a script. And at one point, I swear he was reading words off a card.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might have been, or just zoned out.
He's truly the only good part of the film, but even he can't save the dialogue in this one. And he said he was eager. He wanted to be in this because he'd never done a werewolf film before. And then he spent the rest of his career apologizing to people about it. And he wasn't wrong. This movie is comically awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's something.
Simultaneously a thumbs up and down.
Yeah, it's so bad it's good, and it's not so good it's bad. It's just bad. Yeah. And that's our show. Thanks for joining us. Stop in during the week at the horrorguys.com for news and horror updates. Sign up for the email list, horrorbulletin.com, and check out our books, horrorguys.com/books. Come back next week where we will watch 4 more movies. You know what we got next time?
I don't know what we have next time.
It's the end of November. It's the beginning of December.
Christmas! Yeah. Christmas is coming.
We're going to watch 2 normal movies. More normal, maybe a little relative there. Yeah. The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears. A very colorful, very artistic movie from 2013. And we're going to watch The Amusement Park, something that George Romero made in 1975. Thought it was terrible, put it on the shelf, and it didn't get re-released until 2021.
Well, it wasn't necessarily just him, though. It was the people he made it for.
Yeah.
We're freaked out by it.
We'll have the story for you next week.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird.
Yeah, interesting.
And that's the end of November. And the 1st of December, we're going to start our Christmas holiday special.
Boy, are there a lot of Christmas horror movies.
If you
I didn't
Google
realize
Christmas horror, there
how
are
many
hundreds.
There were. Yeah.
Literally hundreds.
I was astonished how many.
So we're going to watch
a lot of them.
Yeah. We're going to start out with Red Christmas from 2017. With
another Dee Wallace
movie, yeah. And Better Watch Out from 2016.
Okay.
If you like The Babysitter that we reviewed a few months back, this might be right up your alley.
Babysitter meets Home Alone sort of thing?
Absolutely, yes. And I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.